What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be comparing the iPhone 8 Plus to the iPhone 10. Now, in most areas, a lot of you probably already know that the iPhone 10 beats out the iPhone 8 Plus. But one of the areas where the iPhone 8 Plus beats the iPhone 10 is Touch ID. So Apple, with the iPhone 10, decided to remove the fingerprint scanner and decided to go with Face ID to unlock your phone instead. So if you are a huge fan of Touch ID, you should probably consider getting the iPhone 8 Plus. Now, Apple did say that Face ID would be more secure than Touch ID. They said that the odds of fooling Face ID would be 1 in 1 million, whereas with Touch ID it's 1 in 50,000. And next, the display. When you compare the display on these two phones, you must note that the iPhone 10 is made out of OLED, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus uses an older technology called LCD. So what this means for the iPhone 10 is that it's going to have much more vibrant colors, and in general, it's just going to look much better than the iPhone 8 Plus. And to add on to that, the iPhone 10 is also going to have a sharper display, coming in at 458 pixels per inch, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus only has 401. Not a huge difference there, but if you do look into stuff like that, you should probably consider getting the iPhone 10. And one last thing before I move on to something else is the iPhone 10 fits a 5.8-inch screen in a form factor that's similar to the iPhone 8, the regular iPhone 8, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus only has a 5.5-inch screen, and it's in a much bigger form factor than the iPhone 10. And that leads me on to my next point. The iPhone 10 is much more future-proof than the iPhone 8 Plus. Now, I say this because Apple is most likely going to stop making phones with such big bezels as found on the iPhone 8 Plus, and they're probably going to start only making phones with designs like the iPhone 10. Sure, this may not be a big difference to you now, but imagine next year when no one's walking around with a phone like the iPhone 8 Plus, and everyone has a phone that looks like the iPhone 10. Now on to price. So the iPhone 8 Plus will set you back $799 for the 64GB variant, and $949 for the 256GB variant. Whereas the iPhone 10 starts at $999 for the 64GB model, and $1,149 for the 256GB model. However, to get the iPhone 10 anytime this year, you'll most likely need to stay up till midnight trying to pre-order it, or you might just order it from a third party like eBay for probably more money if you can even find it. Now, putting aside the differences, some of the similarities on these phones. One is the camera. I mean, the iPhone 10 does have a slightly wider aperture at f2.2, but the only thing that might even help you with is shots in low light, so it's not going to be that big of a difference. Both cameras record 4K at 60 video, or 1080p 240 frames per second. Both phones support Qi wireless charging. They both have glass backs. The battery life is pretty similar on both of them. The same processors go on both phones and the same amount of RAM. Performance, though, definitely should not be an issue, as the Apple A11 processor that they put in these phones is probably the fastest on the market right now, and 3GB is well optimized with the iOS operating system. Now, one thing I didn't mention is the iPhone 10 did ditch the home button. It did get replaced with gestures on the iPhone 10, but if you do love that home button, then you should probably get the iPhone 8 Plus, because that's going to be a big change